second biggest weekend of the year for the LCS as two teams go to Worlds and one team goes home. Welcome to this week's episode of The Pit. Before we get into this week's matchups, I do want to take a look back at last week rather than previewing the upcoming Dignitas versus NRG game, which I think is just going to be a slop fest the entire time. And honestly, like whoever comes out of that, I don't really think stands a chance against any of the other four teams. So I just want to review what happened there. My biggest question with the FlyQuest NRG series is like, what happened to Palafox? I mean, I love the guy, to be very clear, and he is one of my favorite pros to interview because he's always very honest. Like, every conversation I've had with the guy has been great, but like, there's no denying that his on-the-riff performance this year compared to where he was last year is night and day different. And I don't care if there were coaching changes that happened at NRG. Notably, he lost DeMonte, who was his mid-lane, like, positional coach. There's no way that that makes that big of a difference. I'm sorry. I refuse to believe that, especially like that game 4 where he got caught out like 4 straight times-ish. Like, you don't need a positional coach to like know not to get caught so far up. Like, I don't know what happened here. And it's like, I feel like we're headed into a very interesting time for NRG, who for the most part has kept their same roster the entire way through, especially since obviously being picked up from CLG, or like CLG is still technically NRG, but it's either way, like it's gonna be a rough off season for this crew in particular, because it's like the only person that I think is playing like legitimately well for them is FBI. Every time I look at that bot lane, it feels like FBI is like doing something early, or at least in lane, but then when it comes to team fights, it's just like they ain't got it for whatever reason. And most of the time it's because like they are never on the same pages, and like the squad that was apparently like 5 guys that came together and like would work together to achieve this goal, like cannot get on the same page for whatever reason. I don't know if there's a rift internally that maybe the players have some issues with each other right now as things are kind of going bad and they're not able to figure it out. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you, but at the end of the day, it ain't working. Do I think it's going to end up working better than Dignitas? Yes, because man, did they get stomped by 100 Thieves. And we can make the argument now that 100 Thieves is like the 4th best team in the region. We'll get into that in a minute, but like most people coming into this series had Dignitas at least keeping it close. And the fact that they didn't is more a testament to 100 Thieves really stepping up than I think it is Dignitas like dropping the ball. I think the level that they're at right now has been where they have been for a while. And when you listen to interviews from the players, it feels like it's still a very laxed environment, which Licorice isn't really the biggest fan of at points. But like Isles mentioned when he was on Hotline League, that like they'll sit there and play board games together and stuff. And it's like, maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe you're too comfortable and too friendly with each other that you're not pushing. I don't know. I have no clue what's going on within Dig here, because like you have 5 people that like in theory should be able to work together to just absolutely put it together. Like, I have no clue. How are these 5 players, like, even if you do have a mismatch like style problem, like how are these 5 players not able to do better than what they have, which is like 2 series wins, 3? No, I think 3 series wins the entire split, and then just yet to win a game in playoffs. And honestly, if I was predicting this series, I'm saying like 3-0 NRG. I don't know if Dig wins a single game in playoffs, to which, oh, that in memoriam section next week is going to be fun. I'll tell you that much. But that's enough about them. And before we get to the big 4, I do want to take a second to talk about the LCS Twitch channel, which just enabled drops this past weekend coming into playoffs, where you can subscribe to the LCS Twitch channel for either using your Prime sub or $6, and you get an emote, access to a Discord, which I'll be honest, like access to Discord's like, I don't know, it's never really done much for me. It's like, why would I pay $6 for access to a Discord, like a private exclusive Discord, when the truth is you already have the public LCS Discord, which will be the focal point of conversation the entire time. I think they said some content might live there, but there's no way you make it valuable enough to like fraction that off from the rest of the community. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. But the big reason I wanted to bring this up is because on Summoning Insight this morning, Monte Cristo revealed that apparently, I don't know what site he used, but he said there was apparently 1,500 subscriptions in the first weekend, which sounds great by all means, because when you have like a 20,000 average stream, that means you're getting close to about 7.5% of your audience to capture there. Now, that's kind of a tricky number to digest, though, because any streamer knows, if you're not in content creation, you might not know this, but like when you first turn that on, when that first becomes available, you are going to see a rush of subs, everybody doing so. And you'll have community gifting. I didn't pay attention to like the gifting at all, see who like donated to who. You might have some people that are like really bankrolling it, but that number's going to start off high and then it's going to dip and go down and then it's going to stabilize and then it might start working its way up if you have a good product that can continuously grow over time. By no means 1,500 people is not a number to scoff at. It's still decent money. Assuming best case scenario annualized, you're looking at about 50K, which according to the Ovally conversation from a few years ago, pays for 1 day of keeping the lights on, which, hey, by all means, I'm not going to knock like the money that's coming in there. It is good and it's better that we have that than nothing. But why now is my question. It's not like why now in the sense of like, why are you doing this now? You shouldn't be doing it at all. Why not years ago? It's because of the Riot Esports network that ended up blocking everything. You had 250K people watching the LCS Twitch channel way back when, sometimes even upwards of like 500K in its peak, and you didn't have it on then, but now you have it on whenever now Cadril is co-streaming the LCS. So we have even more of a split audience. It's like you're on the main Twitch broadcast, you are getting maybe 30K people at most anymore. So while I'm happy this is a thing, let's be honest, this is not going to be the main way that you are able to make money and monetize the LCS. What you need to do is you need to find a way to have some sort of product that you are able to sell through the co-streams that then kicks back into the league. It would be great if we had those Valorant team passes or like Valorant bundles in some way, shape, or form that you could like support teams. So like Cadril, for example, is a really big fan of Quid right now. It would be great if we could have every Cadril fan that's a fan of Quid be able to buy something from Quid in game, and that money goes to 100 Thieves. That is going to be much better for people than trying to sell them a Twitch subscription on Twitch to that channel. Like, people want to support their teams and support the players. So, like, the LCS, while I think, like, general LCS-wide selling stuff is fine when it comes to, like, merch. Like, LCS merch, I think, is a great idea. I mean, hell, you could even put, like, region icons, stuff like that, fine. But, like, the main way you are going to be able to make money going forward is through the players and the teams and utilizing things that co-streamers can work into their broadcast seamlessly. As of right now, I don't, like, nothing like that kind of exists in the ecosystem. We're kind of just out in limbo. But regardless, something's still better than nothing. I will say that. That's all that matters at the end of the day. For now, at least. That doesn't mean you still don't criticize and, you know, hope that things get better. But anyways, on to the big four. I never thought I'd get to use accounting terminology in the LCS or when talking about this in terms of team performance, but alas, here we are. If you don't know how the big four in accounting work, the big four in accounting are basically your four biggest public accounting companies that go in and audit major companies. They can audit individuals or sometimes consulting that is like a section of them. But there are four big players by revenue alone. And it's not even close. You have top to bottom, Deloitte, PwC, EY, and KPMG, which if you have a parent that golfs or like a parent that has ever been involved with business, you probably have seen these brands in some capacity, in some way, shape, or form. But there's a pecking order, because by all means, like when I was in grad school and trying to get a job at one of the big four, which I was not able to get any of them. I didn't have the right experience in undergrad to kind of propel me there. But like, you wanted to be a part of the big four. Like, it was just the truth. You could work at midsize, you could work elsewhere, but like, you wanted that notch on your resume from the big four. And quite frankly, they just had some of the biggest clients and the best names that were associated with them, even if obviously the life in the big four is not all it's cracked up to be. Don't drink the Kool-Aid for those looking to get into public accounting. If you can stomach that route, by all means, kudos to you, but nah, that ain't for me. So how does this relate to League of Legends? Well, it's funny because like the order almost identically matches it. Deloitte is by far and away the biggest accounting firm in the United States, hands down, bar none. In the same way that Team Liquid is the best team in the LCS, hands down, bar none. And there's a pretty significant gap between them and second. PwC and EY, fairly close to each other, all things considered, in the same way that FlyQuest and Cloud9, at least for now in most people's eyes, are fairly close. Neither one of them quite comparing to TL, but they're both a little bit ahead of 100 Thieves, who is kind of closing the gap a little bit. Now, most people from LCS fan point of view don't really put 100 Thieves on the same level as the other three, but there's no denying that like they are a clear step above the two below them, which if I look at the two accounting firms that are just below them, you have BDO? Yeah, BDO and RSM, who are like so far below that it's not even like worth mentioning in the conversation. And in the same way that like Dignitas and NRG are kind of like way below everybody else. It's funny how it mirrors this pretty similarly, but we are going to be seeing the big four face off against each other this upcoming weekend as Team Liquid takes on 100 Thieves, which most people are expecting a pretty swift 3-0 from Team Liquid, although the players and some of the analysts behind the scenes are starting to say, okay, 100 Thieves might be able to give them a little bit of run for their money. Probably not win the entire thing, but they might be able to keep it closer than most people are expecting, which would then mean good things going into a potential matchup against FlyQuest or Cloud9. The close one that everybody is keeping an eye on is C9 versus FlyQuest, which the first time around, just a week and a half ago now, C9 was able to get the better of FlyQuest pretty handedly. Even though FlyQuest did keep some of those games close, at the end of the day, it didn't take a single game off of them. And you could say, oh, FlyQuest was saving strats for this particular matchup. I disagree. I don't think FlyQuest has looked all that promising as of late. They got some things that they need to overcome, despite Masu looking incredible on this team. Probably the best player on the team, bar none right now. I'm hoping we have a close series between these two. I'm hoping it goes 5 games, but that will require FlyQuest to be able to step up to C9's level. They clearly can do it. They have done it in the past. It is just a matter of everybody being on the same page and them not making some of the same mistakes that they're making now. But it seems like the key to beating FlyQuest is just like, hey, don't let Inspired power farm, and you're fine. Luckily, Blabber's a fairly aggressive enough jungler to let that happen, and Jojo Pune is crazy enough to make sure that he can displace Quad a little bit. I think it's a 3-1 for C9. I think FlyQuest is going to be able to take a game. I think the actual close series would be FlyQuest versus 100 Thieves. But in terms of the 100 Thieves versus TL match, hey, my hopium's riding high, but even I ain't crazy. I'm saying 3-1 Team Liquid on that one. And finally, I am going to have a full video on my MVP, my All-Pro, like that entire ballot, but we have 2 awards that have come out that I can talk about because I agree with the results that happened. They're exactly how I voted, which is Most Improved Player being APA. Quid was a close second for most people, and somebody asked me about it on Twitter, and I kind of like showed this graph to show exactly what I mean. Yes, if this was an award that was handed out purely at the end of spring or like spring regular season, Quid would have won it, bar none. But like APA's growth has been more slow and steady, whereas Quid had this like massive surge in spring, but kind of came back down to earth a little bit more, especially in the regular season. If you include the postseason, sure, he looked great last week, but postseason does not count as regular season. So APA definitely gets the nod over him. Both players, though, coming from being nearly dropped by their teams, or at least like people wanting them to be dropped from both Team Liquid and 100 Thieves coming into this year, I don't know what more you can say about that. Plus the fact that they have a budding friendship alongside this, like the two of them clearly, I don't know whether they like related over that or just like they're good friends in general, and like they respect the fact that they might be 2 of the best mid laners in the league, or the 2 best. Yeah, it's kind of nice. And then coaching staff of the split, Team Liquid. I mean, yeah. Like, it's an award that we can't really judge all that much from the outside in. It's very difficult as somebody that does vote on it, like to sit here and be like, yes, Team Liquid clearly has the coaching staff over X team for X, Y, and Z reasons. It's like, no, I just have to kind of eyeball it. And the truth is, they had an undefeated regular season. And they clearly improved from spring regular season as well. It's like, yeah, like this team just feels like they keep getting better in a world where everybody else is either like staying stagnant, maybe improving a little bit, but like Team Liquid just feels like they're just improving rapidly, and it's great. I love to see it. I feel like we're starting to approach 2016 TSM levels of hype for the squad, but we'll talk about that assuming they make it to Worlds and quite frankly after playoffs. We need to see how they do in playoffs first before we can start assessing that title to them or that level of hype. But that's going to be it for this week's episode of The Pit. Drop a like down below and comment which upset do you think is more likely to happen? 100 Thieves over Team Liquid, or Dignitas or NRG making the run to Worlds? I feel like 2 fairly extreme examples, but I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. I'll catch you next week. Catch you on Monday for a review of the Colin and Samir podcast that Nate Shot and Courage went on, because my initial reaction, a little bit different from my takeaways now.